Hello, my name is Leslie, and I will be analyzing the controversial figure of Napoleon Bonaparte. Born as Napoleone di Bonaparte, he is mostly known as Napoleon Bonaparte or Napoleon I. Napoleon was born into a not-so-wealthy but noble Corsican family on August 15, 1769, in Ajaccio, Corsica. He was the second of the 8 surviving children of Carlo Bonaparte and Letizia Romalino Bonaparte. The same year Napoleon was born, France had annexed Corsica, which was where his initial resentment towards France began. His father Carlo, who was a lawyer, was involved in a plotting to keep Corsica's independence with plot leader Pasquale Paoli. But, due to France's victory over Corsica, Carlo made alliances with the French, ultimately giving French citizenship to his family, including Napoleon. Thanks to Carlos's alliance with France, Napoleon and his brother Joseph received scholarships to French schools. Napoleon attended 3. Napoleon attended Collège d'Auton in 1779, a religious school where he attended for 3 months to learn sufficient French to enter military college. He struggled with spelling and would have a thick Corsican accent. At 9 years old, he attended Brion-le-Château from 1779 to 1784. These years shaped his resilience. Napoleon was bullied during his years here because of his Corsican origin and thick accent. Despite being a bullying target, he kept his head high and became determined to prove himself. It was during his time at Brienne, during the winter of 1783 and 1784, Napoleon organized a snowball fight with schoolmates. This event demonstrated his talent for tactics and leadership, skills that he would later place in action. Napoleon then attended the prestigious École Militaire from 1784 to 1785. He specialized in artillery, which required him to use his strong mathematic skill. His father's passing in 1785 deeply affected him and his family. This hardship pushed Napoleon to excel and make use of his scholarship, so Napoleon managed to complete the 2-year program in 1 year and graduated as second lieutenant for the regiment of Luffert, even though he wanted to be in the Navy. After graduating, he was deployed to Toulon during the French Revolution to retake the royalist city for the revolution against British forces in 1793. Which, fun fact, the year 1793 was when he stopped resenting France due to the French Revolution's ideals, his military career advancements, and by being exiled from Corsica with his family due to their alliance with France. In fact, when the original artillery commander was wounded, Napoleon executed a new artillery plan which brought victory for the revolution due to his leadership and military genius. 3 years later, Napoleon was involved in the Italian campaign from 1796 to 1797 and was appointed commander. His army was considered weak and poorly supplied, but after a series of victories, it proved his potential, which promoted his power in France. A year later, Napoleon embarked in the Egyptian campaign of 1798 to 1799 to lessen British trade in India and expand French influence. The campaign was successful at first, with victories of the Battle of the Pyramids alongside taking Alexandria and Cairo. Unfortunately, his winning streak took a turn during the British victory at the Battle of the Nile. After losing, he abandoned his own army, trapping them in Egypt, and he himself returned to France in 1799. Upon his return, he used propaganda to view himself as a hero than a coward, which enhanced his military reputation. Fun fact, this painting here by Jacques-Louis David of Napoleon on a horse looking so fierce and brave was actually propaganda. In reality, he crossed the Alps riding a mule for his victory at the Battle of Marengo. During his time of being celebrated for his victories, the French Revolution created a directory of a 5-member executive government. This government was weak and brought political instability. This encouraged Napoleon to team up with Emmanuel Sieyès to seize control and replace the directory in the event of Coup 1819 Brumaire in 1799. During the 18 Brumaire, the plan was to spread rumors of Jacobean plot, which forced the Legislative Council to meet at the Château Saint-Cloud. Napoleon's army later arrived to create intimidation, and the tensions grew. During the 19th Brumaire, Napoleon tried speaking to the Council of 500, but was attacked both verbally and physically, causing Napoleon to storm off. His brother Lucien Bonaparte, who was also part of this plan and president of the council, alongside Sieyès, they managed to persuade the council to approve a new government. After this, the Directory was dissolved and a new government with 3 councils formed. Napoleon became first consul and held the most power. After a few years of becoming first consul, Napoleon spent the years following creating peace in France, which included the formation of his controversial Napoleonic Code. After proving loyalty to the public, he specifically chose allies to be in the Senate. In 1802, he proposed being first consul for life, and because the Senate was chosen by him, and the plebiscite, meaning a vote by the people, was worded to emphasize future stability with hereditary heirs, he won over the people. Fun fact, Napoleon divorced Josephine de Beauharnais because she was unable to give him a son, which was necessary to him. He later married Marie-Louise of Austria, who did provide him with an heir, known as Napoleon II. On December 2, 1804, he invited Pope Pius VII to crown him, but he ultimately took the crown off the Pope's hand, and he crowned himself emperor. In my opinion, most of Napoleon's controversies happened gradually through his life, and I would consider him a controversial person since birth, because of events like starting a snowball fight in his youth that had escalated to throwing snow-covered rocks, to abandoning his army in Egypt, using propaganda in a distressed nation, and manipulating democracy to rise to power really shows how he was just born into the controversial life. The Napoleonic Wars of 1803 to 1815 are also seen as controversial because so many people died during these years. He was seen as a tyrant to other countries, but France, which honestly reflects how manipulated and blindsided he had the nation. Another controversy was the creation of the Napoleonic Code, because the legal reforms brought upon slavery, it reinforced patriarchal authority, and restricted women's rights. The code made it easier for husbands to divorce their wives and have full authority over their kids, while the wives had nothing. Napoleon is viewed as a dictator due to his authoritarian leadership, his control and suppression of democracy, and his ambition to take over Europe, leading to many deaths. In the year 1812, Napoleon tried invading Russia, and although he was successful at first, Russia started destroying supplies and towns. This caused Napoleon's army to weaken due to deaths, starvation, and diseases, which marked Napoleon's defeat against Russia. His defeat destroyed his reputation, and other European nations viewed him as weak. In 1813, the Battle of the Nations, he suffered the biggest defeat against Britain, Austria, Russia, and Prussia. After this, in 1814, he was exiled to the island of Elba, where he stayed a year before escaping in 1815 to France. Upon his arrival back to France, he regained power for 100 days. Napoleon wanted to re-establish himself and fought the Battle of Waterloo. Unfortunately, he was defeated in 1815 and was exiled to St. Helena, where he was supervised by the British until his death in 1821. Napoleon Bonaparte died at 51 years old, due most likely to stomach cancer. Throughout history, Napoleon is mostly known for being a military genius. The most enduring legacy was the Napoleonic Code because it created order in chaos, made laws clear, and it influenced countries outside France, including countries in Latin America, Europe, and even Louisiana, United States. The Arc de Triomphe, which he ordered to be built, was to honor the glory of his French army and victories, so he could be remembered as a great emperor to the same level as a Roman emperor, which, fun fact, Napoleon was obsessed with the Romans, as shown in this picture. The architecture of the Arc de Triomphe is similar to the Romans. He idolized Roman figures like Julius Caesar and Augustus, and which he took inspiration from, especially during his years at Brienne-le-Château. He even viewed his expansions as a modern version of Roman expansion, which is interesting. Today, the arc symbolizes French patriotism, and it's a symbol of French military glory. Thank you for listening, and goodbye.